So it doesn't end there.
Oh, okay.
Now, there's also there's also all the various companies that are supported. And I do want to make a point of that, because I'm not trying to say that SpaceX, Blue Origin, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and all these other smaller companies that I didn't list that you probably never heard of, like, I'm not saying they don't exist. They all serve a purpose. They just shouldn't own the space. They shouldn't be dictating to us, and they shouldn't ever be put in a position where they can fly solo and, beyond our grasp, and they can, again, own something critical to humanity. I think that government should play probably the most prominent role in some of those spaces. And I
You're
think
saying they shouldn't have the ability to steal our future?
Yeah, something like that.
They took our jobs.
Steal our future is an interesting way of putting it. I would say probably lease our future back to us.
Oh, well, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So we're talking about these companies. They do have a role to play, but you also have budget constraints that can limit NASA's ability to make those contracts. For instance, instead of funding 2 companies to develop the human landing system that they want to use on the moon, NASA, as NASA has always done, they always, for these big contracts, have 2 companies on board to do them after the bidding process. And that's basically to foster competition between them and to have a fail-safe in case, for whatever reason, one doesn't make it. But NASA this time around could only afford to do one. And so they had to pick SpaceX, and they couldn't go through the proper bidding process. Luckily, there was a huge lawsuit and lots of protests, mainly from Jeff Bezos. And I remember hearing it, and the way that it was covered, it seemed like they were just being almost sore losers. But then when I read more about it, I'm like, oh, wait, no, this is not the right way to do it. And it's because their funding got cut. But luckily, after all that stuff, Congress did increase their funding, and now NASA has opened up the bidding process to not just Blue Origin, but a number of other people to get that second contract. So that's good. But there's even more benefits to funding.
It's like my new yacht.
Yeah. Which bridge can I tear down to get my yacht through and then have to rebuild? Which is a callback to another previous episode that we did. Anyway, so one of the coolest parts about all of this, other than the tangible, is kind of this intangible aspect of NASA and our relationship with it. And that's that NASA inspires and is inspired in an endless cycle of human imagination brought to life. And I think Star Trek is a really good example of that. In the 1960s, Star Trek came out, and it actually gave this nation and our space program hope at a time when arguably we didn't really have a lot of it. And the idea that new life and civilizations might be out there fueled an entire generation to dream big. And since then, the 2 entities have been kind of intertwined. And there's so many examples of this. I'm going to name a few, and they're not even the most, I'm not even going to argue that they're the most important, because it's kind of subjective at this point. But you had the actress Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura, who was the first African-American actor to play a major part on an American primetime series. NASA actually hired her to recruit more women and minorities to become astronauts in the 1970s, very successfully. Likewise, several astronauts and NASA engineers.
She was an ambassador. She was
like
space ambassador of some sort.
Exactly. And so you had also several astronauts and NASA engineers and NASA scientists all citing that Star Trek inspired them to be part of the space program. But more than that, which actually is leading to some really cool areas, is that, Star Trek's photon torpedoes have been reportedly plausible. 4 students calculated what you would need in order to build realistic photon torpedoes. And according to them, the science isn't actually that complicated. I'll bet it's, a little bit out of our reach at the moment. We don't have currently the technology, but the science is possible. And their findings are actually published in a peer-reviewed journal, Physics Special Topics. We even have quantum teleporting. Now, it's not the teleporting that you see, but it's about the inspiration to even go there. Right? It's the people that were inspired by Star Trek have now gone into real disciplines and are looking into it and making it happen. From there, you have games, movies, series, print media. They're all riffing off of one another to further fuel concepts that are always inspiring NASA, and news of NASA realizing them only fuels more creativity. And if you think of any sci-fi story, and then you see what NASA is considering to do today to explore our solar system, like, it's just this is why I wish I could live forever, because what we're going to do tomorrow is going to be really cool. We have swimming robots, these micro robots that can go in oceanic moons. We have crawling robots that can explore Martian caves. We have lightweight deployable structures that expand in space and allow us to just do our thing there. We have seeding asteroids with fungi to create space soil. I mean, it's all this cool stuff. I just can't imagine what we would actually do if this was funded in a way where it was prioritized. I mean, 24 billion, you spend like almost $1 trillion on defense. I mean, look at everything we got for our 24 billion, dude. Like, look at all of that. What do we do with? There's just so much potential, and it's so much squandered potential because of all the time we've already wasted from landing on the moon to now, and how much people care and the drop in enthusiasm. It's, I don't know. This is more of a PSA than maybe a topic, but I wanted to raise awareness because there's so much stuff that we all take for granted. It gives us our modern world. I mean, everything from glow in the dark lamps to your CAT scan. I mean, it's just so much is there. And no one could care less, you know, when we launch a helicopter on Mars or a new rover sends back an image. I don't know. So there's that.